Okay, welcome back to test review 1. We left off, we finished 12, we are now starting 13. Calculate the ratio of males under 15 to females under 15. Is this part to part or part to whole? Well, let's do this part first. The males and females are both part of the total, so it is part to part. It is not part to whole. Okay? So then make yourself a little template, males under 15 to females. Order matters. The males are going to have to be in the numerator. This is not one of our age dependency ratios. Okay? This is just a random ratio that they gave you. So males under 15, come up here to under 15. This is the total of each age group, male and female. Here is the male. So 31,773 over the female, 382. When we divide that out, which is easier than reducing it with a number that large, we get about 1.046. Now you could have said about 1.05. Okay, now they didn't ask you to write a sentence, but I know they're going to on the test. A sentence you could write: there are about 1.05 males under 15 to 1 female under 15. Now, if you were to round this, you could say there was about 1 male to every 1 female, because it could round that way, which would probably be more meaningful than this one. Okay? So there's all kinds of ways you can do that. But once you divide it out, it's whatever the number is, so males under 15 to 1 of whatever the denominator is. Okay? Calculate the ratios of males 15 to 20 to the total males. Okay, so 15 to 20 has to be our numerator, and we're looking at the males, so it's these two values. We need to add them together. 6570 plus 6377. Now this is total of both. This is total of male, total of female. We want total of the male. So that comes out to about 0.086. Now again, they didn't ask us to write a sentence, but be prepared to write them on the test. Okay, now comes the child dependency ratio, one of our age ratios. So let's review those real quick. You have 3 of them. They won't tell you what they are. You have to know them. First is the child. Guess there's not really an order. Then we have old age dependency. Then we have just the age dependency. Hopefully you can't, I'm getting outside noise coming in. I'm going to stop here a second, and then I'll come back when the noise goes away. Okay. The child age dependency ratio, you take those aged under 15 and divide it by who they depend on, the working age they call it, which is defined by 15 to 64 age group. The old age dependency is those defined as old age that depend on other people. They define that as 65 and over. And again, we divide by the workers 15 to 64. The age dependency takes both groups of dependents and adds them together. Those under 15 plus those 65 and older. And again, we're always dividing by the 15 to 64 age group, the working bees who they depend on. It's not that hard to memorize if you think about it and you know the definitions. Well, already in society we have 65 and older here as when they can retire, so that's the old age. This doesn't apply here really, but they're defining it as under 15 or age dependents. Okay? Everybody else is the working class, so the denominator is always 15 to 64. Okay? So back to the question. This said, what is the child dependency ratio? And it asks you how do you explain how to do it, what it means, and how to calculate it, even though it doesn't say it here. So child dependency ratio is under 15 divided by the working age, which is 15 to 64. Now, for a sentence, something like this is found by taking the number of people under 15 and dividing by the people 15 to 64. This tells how many children are dependent on how many workers. Okay? So when we do that, I've already summed them. We had to go to the total, not male or female, but both sexes here. I added these already to get the 15 to 64, which is the 204,777. The under 15 is 62,155. So all we have to do is divide it out. And we get about 0.304. Excuse me. And they will ask you to write a sentence. Now you can multiply this by whatever you want to come up with the end number. You could say there are about 0.3, just round it to the tenths, child dependents for every one worker. I thought 0.3, that's tenths, 3 out of 10. There are 3 of 10, for every 10. There are about 3 child dependents for every 10 workers was a good way to write it. But you could have written the 0.3 and the 1. You could have written 304 and 1,000. Same thing. Okay. Okay, 16 says find the deer vehicle collisions per licensed driver for the states. Make your template. Collisions per drivers. Now, this chart, there's no millions or anything, so it makes it easy. Be prepared on the test for one of these to be in millions where you got to put a times 10 to the 6th or the zeros on, adjust the number. But this one is just straightforward. I've done the 3 of them. I'll just do 2 here. So for Illinois, the numerator would be 51627 divided by the 8,373,969. And we get 0.006165. Okay, to demo this one, Indiana would be 34,000 divided by the 5,550,469. We get 0.006126. Okay. Now, they may ask you per 100,000 on the test, then you just take this number and multiply it by 100,000, and that's how many vehicle collisions per 100,000. Be ready for that question. Okay. Now it said fill in it and find who had the worst rate. Would be the highest number. So we'd be looking here, comparing Iowa and Michigan. 0.138, 0.138, 8188. So the worst one is going to be Iowa. The Deere vehicle collision rate for Ohio is the same as the state of North Dakota. If there are 232,000 licensed drivers in North Dakota, how many Deere collisions? This is one of our what ifs. Okay, they're talking about Ohio and North Dakota. We know Ohio's numbers, we're given those. Collisions and population, collision and population. Okay, we don't know, we're looking for how many accidents if there are 232,000 licensed drivers. Now a lot of times they'll ask you about one on the chart and you just pretend you don't know and you're going to say what would it be if it were like Ohio. You would still, even though there was a number, leave it blank and use the population. Now we just cross multiply. So I did 67,699 times 232,000. Then I'm going to divide by over here, multiply by the 232,000. And then I'm going to divide by the 7963372. And I left something off here. Let me check my numbers again. There we go. And it's going to equal about 1,972 collisions. 18. Here's the CPI table. You're not going to use the one, they're going to give it to you on the test just like something like this. They'll show part of it. In 1972, the home was purchased for $14,500 and its value kept up with inflation. What's the value in 2012? Make your template. 1972, 2012. Actual value, CPI. Actual value, CPI. So it was $14,500 in 72 and the CPI was 41.8. You can leave zeros off the end but don't round. Like this one, don't round it. We're looking for the actual value. The CPI is 229.594. Cross multiply, multiply the diagonal without the unknown. And then divide by the 41.8. And we get about $79,644. 19. I buy a car in 2012 to celebrate my graduation from Ivy Tech. The car cost about $13,000. how much would the car have cost in 1982 when my parents graduated? So we're looking at 2012 and 1982. Actual value CPI, actual value CPI. We know 2012 was 13,000. Back up to our CPI, that is 229.594. We're looking for what was that equivalent in 1982 dollars, and that CPI is 96.5. Okay, multiply the diagonal without the variable and divide by the diagonal with the variable. So about $5,464 was the cost. Okay. One more CPI here. The minimum wage was in 1972 was $1.60 per hour. In 2012 it was $7.25. Use the CPI to determine if the wage has kept up with inflation. Okay, this is one of the trickier ones on the test because they're actually giving you both values and they're asking you, did it keep up with the CPI? Probably one of the easiest ways to do this is to set up what you already know, your little template, actual value CPI. We know the 72, take the oldest value, okay? Go from old to new, or it won't work. And the CPI in 72 was, now, even though we know they're saying it's 725, we're going to do a what if and then compare it. Okay, if it kept up with inflation, we'd multiply by the CPI for 2012, and that's going to tell us what it would be equivalent keeping up with inflation in 2012 dollars. Okay, and then we can compare it to what they're giving us it actually is. So multiply and then divide. And we get so now we compare. If the wage kept up with inflation, from 1972 to 2012, it would be $8.79. The minimum wage in 2012 is $7.25, so it did not keep up with inflation. And you could have written that in a much more concise sentence. Okay? So we just pretend we don't know it, see what it would be keeping up with inflation using the two CPI values, the beginning amount, and see what it would be in 2012. The $7.25 that it is did not keep up with that. Okay. 21, find the GPA for the semester. Okay, and they will tell you that, oh, they put them on here. A's are 4, B's are 3, C's are 2, D's are 1. Now, these are all not the same weights because they're different credit hours. So we go 4 times the 2 is 8. 4 times the 4 is 16. 3 times 2 is 6. 1 times 3 is 3. Now we sum the points from each course. We get 33. Now we know it has to be, your grade point average has to be between 0 and 4. So this is not the answer. Now we have to divide it by the number of credits, the number of counts, not just 4, that's a mistake people will make, but by all the credits. So that's 4, 8, 11, 12. 33 divided by 12, and we get a 2.75 GPA. Now 22. Now we're looking at a weighted average, like your project. On weighted averages, you have to have the category average. If they don't give it to you, you have to find that first, but they gave it to us. Then you just make the percent a decimal, the percent weight a decimal, and multiply. Okay, so 75 times 0.15, 70 times 0.2 will be 14, 80 times 0.2 will be 16, 82 times 0.45 is, okay, then we sum those and we get again, use some number sense. You can't be done. If these are your grades, or we are done, I'm sorry, these are your grades because it falls between as the lowest one is a 70 and it goes up to 82. On the weighted by percent averages, all we do is sum, we don't divide, so you are done right there at 78.15. Okay. Okay, we have, this is the hours worked. It says calculate the mean, median, mode, and range. Okay. For the mean, we just sum the data and divide by the number of entries. So I get 66 divided by 5, and the mean is 13.2. For a median, we need them in order from low to high. That's the common error. This is not in order, so we need to reorder them. 8, 12, 12, 16, 18. It's an odd number of data entries, so we land on a 12. You got to have equal number on each side. So the mean was 13.2. The median is 12. Remember, if it's an even number and falls between two numbers for the median, then you add them and divide by 2. But this was odd and it landed on 1. The mode is 12, and the range is the max minus the min, which is 10. Sketch a curve that is skewed to the left. That means the tail is to the left. So there's one there. Skewed to the right means the tail's to the right. Something like that. And symmetrical is symmetrical. And what we know about this is when it's to the left, left and less, the mean is less than the median. When it's to the right, the mean is greater than the median. and the mean equals the median on symmetrical. So that is the answer to D. Okay, 25. These were some large numbers there to put in the calculator, so I went ahead and did that ahead of time and checked it twice. The sum was 46,177. There were 13 data entries, so the mean comes out to 3,552.1. The median, first thing we need to do is put them in order from low to high, and then I looked and they're already in order, which made it nice. So again, we had an odd number of entries, 6 below, 6 above. We land right on 3159. Now, is it skewed left or right? You don't need to draw a picture. The mean is blank, then the median. The mean is greater than the median, so that means it is skewed to the right. Now, the 25th percentile. Now, one way we're calculating it, Excel does it differently. They're just using quartiles, okay? The median would be the 50%. If we take the median of the lower half, I've written those here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's going to be our 25th percentile. This is an even number of data, 3 on each side, so we have to add 1837 plus 2038 and divide by 2. And I've got that over here, 1938. This is the 25th percentile. The 75th is the upper half. When it lands on a number, that's not counted in either half. If it's between them, everything to the left of the line counts as the lower, everything to the right counts as the upper. But you don't count the one it lands on if it's an odd number, because it wouldn't be fair. Which one would you put it in? So the median of the upper half falls 3 on each side. It's an even, so we add 4233, 4604 and divide by 2, and we get 4418.5 or 4419. It didn't say where to round. Now, also be prepared. They ask you what a percentile is. Percentile is not the test score, a percent. Percentile is a rank, not a test score or percent. Okay? If you scored in the 20th, that's terrible, but okay, 20th percentile, doesn't mean you got a 20 on the test. You could have got a 2, you could have got a 92. All it means is you scored better than 20% of those taking the test. Okay? Doesn't mean that you scored 20 points better, it just means you scored better than 20% of those taking the test. Make sure you're prepared for that, because on the test they normally ask a question like, your friend says the teacher told them they were in the 78th percentile, but they know they got a 90% on the test. What do you say to your friend? You say that percentile is a rank, not a test score. That you could have got a 90% on the test and been at a rank of the 78th percentile. It means you scored better than 78% of those taking the test. That is usually a test question. Okay. And the last one, it just says make some observations. Okay. Actually, this one says compare and contrast the data. Write a few sentences on your finding. This one you have to give specific observations. How does each country's age group compare to one another? How do the countries compare to one another? What can you say about the country's current age dependency? What about the future? So there's a lot of very specific things they want answered. There's not one right answer. You've got the answers, but I'll give you the answers to the text put out. Afghanistan has the largest youth population, which is right here. All this is, they've done a really funny graph making it male and female. Okay. US and Italy have bubbles of population that are in the middle. Okay. So there was like a baby boom that many years ago because there's more babies then than now. Okay. US and Italy may be concerned about their age dependency ratios if there aren't enough working age people to take care of their elderly. Meaning when these groups that have the large population, like we actually have baby boomers right now in the US, when they reach the retirement age and we have less children, who's going to take care of all of them? Where Afghanistan may not have enough workers to care for their young. More middle-aged people die in Afghanistan. Poverty, war, all kinds of things, not as good a health care. So there's not many people to take care of the young. So again, there was all kinds of answers. You just had to make the comparisons they told you. Okay, so make sure you do that. All right, that is it for your test review. Make sure you show your work and turn it into the proctor, numbered in order, so you can get partial credit even on the multiple choice. If your score comes up, that is not your score until I go through it. I should have it set where it doesn't come up until I go through it, but don't panic until after I look at it. So study hard. You don't need luck. Get prepared and do your best. See ya.